I can empathize with looking in the mirror and being displeased and wanting to make a change.
Sure.
And I know the process, how to do that. And it's actually rather simple, not easy, but it is rather simple on how you go through that. You don't have to.
Persistence culture. Persistence, firm or obstinate continuance in a course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition. Culture, the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group.
Keep moving. This is Persistence Culture Podcast. We are Ventura County's premier podcast. It is not Mambo, Brian Botti. At the yellow table, Mambo is out today, so I'll be your host, and we are the weekly podcast with our weekly guest, Sean. Sean, do you want to give us a little tidbit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Sean McFatridge.
Oh, wow.
Sean Michael McFatridge, for those of you who care about middle names. And a little tidbit about myself. I'm married to a smoking hot Estonian woman. Would you like more information, or is that good enough?
You can go wherever you want with that.
Well, I'm also a local business owner, partnered with Persistence Culture. We partnered to create Pr1me Training. It's a high-end online training company. Right now we have one program called the Catalyst Program. It's a 12-week program for high-performing professional men looking to regain their athletic selves. A lot of guys who have athletic experience have gotten into a career and built a family and are now getting dad bod. And right now the Catalyst Program is designed to help, one, educate them on how to build a healthy fitness lifestyle. So it's a bit of lifestyle coaching. And then also just provide some accountability for them to get back into what they would consider their optimal physical self.
Right. I feel like a lot of people need that portion, like that accountability. When I try to go to the gym by myself, my motivation is very low. I mean, I can get through workouts, but then I'm not motivated. But then when I do like a class with other people doing the same thing, suffering with them, I feel like I'm pushed and I'm held accountable to live up to whatever that expectation is of me. So how long have you been doing that business for?
Well, this is coming up on the end of the 3rd month.
Oh, wow. So it's relatively new.
Very new, very fresh. I've done this before, but it's a new company. I've been coaching now for over 10 years. Last October, it's now April, would have been my 10-year mark on coaching. And
that was focused on CrossFit or just in fitness in general?
Fitness in general. There was a lot of it that was CrossFit, but I did tactical strength and conditioning with the fire department. I did a lot of private training, both in person and online and hybrid. I've done sports performance and strength and conditioning for teams, soccer teams, lacrosse teams, football teams. And, it's like, I think I've had quite a variety of experience up until this point with how to identify the basics for most demographics.
Right.
And then move the needle in the right direction based off of trying to get them to understand that the consistency on the basics is really going to generate about 80% of the results.
So that's what I was going to allude to, is that you've been through this variety of coaching different demographics. What landed you on this specific? It seems very focused.
It is
your niche. What landed you on that particular demographic?
Well, I think it just started with the idea to pick a niche in the first place. I think one of the issues that a lot of trainers find, especially when they're moving into the online fitness space, and this was my first inclination also, is to be as general and inclusive as possible, which trying to educate myself on how to best run the business of online fitness training. Every person who was serious about growing the business said that you have to niche down, right? So that puts us in a position to where you just have to choose. And so the demographic that I chose was the one which had kind of the easiest time with me. So I've worked with a lot of pregnant moms, for example, right? Over the years, I've coached a lot of new mothers through first, second, and third trimester doing high intensity exercise and postpartum. However, if I started a brand, it's like, all 200-pound man of me, starting a brand where I'm helping mothers find their fitness during their pregnancy, that's probably not going to, they will not reciprocate how they see me as an expert in that field, even though I am, and I could help them. But someone who can look at me and be like, that's my guy, without me even opening my mouth. So I think that's one of the things. It's not that I particularly care for high performing professional men more than other people. Sure. But I think that they will respond best to me. Sure. And also they have money, which always makes things so much easier.
Yeah. I guess, any pregnant couple is probably focusing more on, their child and not wanting to invest in a program, an online program to be fit. Or if they're already doing that, they probably already know what's going on to be fit. Like Gabby, for instance, she already knows what she needs to do in order to stay fit.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely harder. There are demographics that are harder. However, I would probably say that no matter what demographic you're choosing, fitness is probably one of the hardest things to sell. If you're selling fitness to people who are already active and fit, they usually don't feel like they need so much of the interaction with the coaching, and they want to save some money because they feel like they don't need the hand holding.
Right.
But if you're going with someone who doesn't have a whole lot of experience, then that usually means that there's a lot more of a hurdle for them their barrier of entry into activity is going to be harder. So really, honestly, it doesn't particularly matter which demographic you go after. Mine is not easier than anybody else's. But a lot of it, with the online space specifically, is if you can get people to know, like, and trust you as a coach in general, in person or online, then they will, the whole experience from the curiosity to the closing to the starting to the maintenance is going to be a whole lot easier. And if I can find a demographic that will go through the process of knowing, liking, and trusting me faster, then that's going to make my job easier and I can help more people.
Yeah. Something came up in my head when you were saying that is that hurdle of coaching pregnant women. There is that hurdle of, I don't know what you're going through, but I still know what you need. I don't know if you've ever been unfit in your life or been that dad bod mode. I know I have, for sure, not as a dad, but been in a dad bod mode where I've gained weight and then I've come back from that and became the athlete that I know I can be. Do you struggle at all with that relatableness of knowing that your demographic that you're targeting, you might not have been in the same situation as them? And like, how do you relate with them in that way?
That's a really good question. And I think that I think a lot of trainers should be asking themselves that question. How can I relate to this person? How can I empathize with this person more?
Mm-hmm.
Just to answer your question, I think that even people who are extremely fit will go through the cycle of having some sort of a trigger to push them into a mode where they feel like they need to make a change. Typically, in my experience, I can't speak for everyone's mentality, but in my experience with people who are more fit, they actually have more triggers for them so that they have this mental, I don't want to say
like a switch.
It's a switch. I think that there is a little bit of how you see yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that the people who are more fit are generally harder on themselves. So when they look at themselves, they are more inclined to see the negative aspects.
Mm.
And really, I don't think that is too much different from someone who has a six-pack looking at themselves and critiquing themselves on a very minuscule level. But to them, it feels big.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone who has dad bod and is looking at themselves and is like, wow, man, I've really let myself go. It's like, just on a personal level, my trigger, and I'll talk about kind of this cycle in a little bit, but it's my trigger to start what I call the nutrition cycle is that if I start to lose the visible lower two abs in my six pack,
Yeah.
right? Now, some people might listen to that and be thinking that's like absurd. I'm ridiculous. It's like I'm still
It's
super
a standard
fit.
that you hold yourself, though, right?
Exactly, right? And honestly, that's actually what I teach my clients is the nutrition cycle, which is trigger into tracking, into triage, into maintenance, into trigger, tracking,
So it's a
triage,
loop.
maintenance.
Okay.
It's a loop, but it gets progressively tighter.
I see.
So it's a spiral.
Mm.
So if you think about maybe your trigger when you very first enter the cycle to want to make a change, and this is an example from someone that I have worked with in the past. It was years ago in Denver, but it was a grandma that she was so overweight that when she went on rides at Six Flags with her kids, they couldn't put the seat all the way down to lock it.
Wow.
So then they asked her to get off, and it was really embarrassing, and she couldn't go on the ride with her kids, or her grandkids, I should say.
Sure.
And so that was her trigger. And when she came into the gym, and I just said, hey, what prompted you to do this? She had never had a gym membership in her life. She's getting a gym membership in her 70s.
Yeah, that's a valid question right there.
And then she told me that story, right? Really emotional story, but then, it's like, then what I would lead her to is, okay, well, let's start looking at what your nutrition looks like right now. That's the tracking piece. Then the triage is you just look at where your nutrition is currently, your nutrition habits, and then you compare that to what the general consensus is on what a good nutritional practice would be. So let's just, if you start at the things that make the biggest difference, like your total caloric intake, right? Energy in versus energy out. It's not all just energy in, energy out. It's more nuanced than that. However, the laws of thermodynamics do not go away.
Right.
If you have more calories coming in than you're expending, you will put on mass.
Yeah.
Right. And the inverse is the same, right? So then if you start looking at that, then you start looking at the breakdown of your macronutrients, your proteins first, then your carbohydrates, then your fats. And then you start looking at what's the quality of your food. So you start going down, okay, what makes the biggest difference? Let's start triaging things. If your total calories are off, I don't want to talk about supplements.
Right.
I don't want to talk about whether you should be keto, right? I want to just get your total calories dialed in.
Right.
Let's get that into where
Get
we
the
can,
first step going.
right?
Yeah.
And then we move that piece into maintenance. And then we go back to triage, and let's talk about your macronutrients. What does that look like? Are you getting enough protein if you want to build muscle? Let's get that to maintenance. And then you start moving all these things into maintenance phase until you have your whole nutrition, lifestyle, and habits into a maintenance phase. And then the next trigger, we want to make it just a little bit tighter.
Right.
So, hopefully we're not hitting the same trigger. We're making it so that it's going to be something that isn't as big of an impact, right? And we don't have to see any regression, and that way we see progress.
Right.
And then you just keep going through the spiral until it's tight enough to where you're like, I know I need to make a change, and I do not feel comfortable about my body if I don't have a six-pack.
And it's automatic.
Yeah, and that's 10, 15 years down the road.
Right.
But that's where it goes.
Gotcha. And that example with that grandma, her trigger, it might be kind of spaced out. She's probably not going to Six Flags every day, every weekend or anything like that, right? But maybe it's just like a trigger that happens more daily. Like, I want to fit into these pants that I haven't fit into for so long, or I know that every time that I can't fit into these pants, that's a trigger for me to, get your ass going. Let's make some changes, or.
And going back to what you originally said is like, do I find it hard to empathize with the client? I've looked in the mirror and just thought, man, you're a piece of shit.
Really?
Oh yeah. A lot. And that's what I'm saying is people who you see who are really fit, they probably have that trigger come up a lot.
Right. It's just tighter. It's a tighter trigger then. Okay.
Yeah, they hold themselves to a higher standard.
I see.
Which also means that they're probably putting a lot more pressure on themselves. Right? And so, yeah, I can empathize with looking in the mirror and being displeased and wanting to make a change.
Sure.
And I know the process how to do that, and it's actually rather simple, not easy, but it is rather simple on how you go through that. You don't have to, it's like I have my degree in exercise science, and I've been coaching for 10 years, and I've coached, well over a couple thousand people at this point.
Yeah.
You don't have to have all of that, but you do have to understand what the basics are, and you do. The trickiest part of it is that you have to understand how to cut through the noise, because the fitness industry is always trying to reinvent the packaging on how they deliver the basics. And some of them don't even tell you about the basics. They want you to go V shred on if you ever get those are you eating these certain foods to lose fat? Are you running on running on the treadmill doesn't burn fat, it burns calories. Click here to find what burns fat. And then it's like you keep clicking, and then they'll get you to their metabolism boosting drug.
Right.
Their supplement that is supposed to help, burn fat for some reason. But really they just all they need to do is like start tracking, start understanding where you're at. See, like, are you lined up with the basics?
Right.
Don't do anything else until you're lined up with the basics.
Yeah.
It's like, are you eating meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar?
Right.
Like if you're not doing that, then don't do anything else. But people, it's like the fitness industry, instead of trying to get that out to the masses and getting buy-in, they know that it's more enticing if they can seem like they have the secret.
Yeah.
If they have the hack.
Well, on top of that, it's the quick solution, right? They're looking to sell this magic pill that you take, and then it's done. Like, you don't have to put any work. Where your system is more of a lifestyle change. You have to really, and it's long term. It's something that you put work into, and you have to track. That's something that you do daily. and then you get results over time. And that's a healthier way to do it versus, taking this magic pill and then you've lost 20 pounds and it's probably just water weight that you just, peed out or whatever. So yeah, I mean, just like anything else, like building a business and like fitness gains or anything like that, it seems like it's more the long-term solution that always pays out more dividends than that quick solution, right? So that's interesting. So what kind of, so you're 3 months in, what is your biggest, I don't want to say hardship, but like problem that you're trying to accomplish or amongst, okay, as a business owner, not the day-to-day, because I know that the day-to-day is soul-sucking and you have to do everything. But
I was going to say, I was like, everything's a problem.
Yeah.
Everything's...
And it is. I mean, starting a business is always a problem, but what's the big ticket item that you could complete or figure out in order to get you to the next step?
Yeah. That's niching down and becoming more efficient with my time so that I can, if you niche down far enough, then you can create one product and customize it to the niche, and then you can sell a customized program.
Right. It sounds like you're pretty niche down. So
I am, but when you're, it's like starting the company and then putting out into the world where you're like, hey, I just started this new thing.
I'm doing this. Yeah.
Do you know anyone who fits this description? You get so many people who are like, no, but
yeah,
that sounds neato.
Right.
I'd like to try it. And then you're like, okay, well, I mean, I do need money.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And you want to give me money, so I will take your money. And then you're like,
that's fair.
However, you're not a man and you're not looking to lose your dad bod.
Right.
It's like it's like I got a couple of ladies who were looking to lean down for their wedding, which is great. And I really love working with them, and
you can help them, right?
And I can help them, and it's in my wheelhouse. The discipline to say no,
right?
It's like I think in that case, more money would create more space for me to be disciplined in saying no. I would feel more comfortable with it. But when you're starting out, you just gotta make it happen,
right?
So niching down. In actuality, not in like the theoretical, this is what my business
does, yeah.
But in like who I'm helping, right? And only doing that and not going outside of that. I think that's the biggest hurdle to get from the start line to, I don't know, let's say 10K a month.
Is that the intermediate goal? 10K a month.
10K a month is the intermediate goal, and then the long-term goal is to get it to where I am replacing myself. It's like the program can be kind of run by itself, and then I start to go and acquire more coaches who can have their own niche, and I want to make Pr1me training a platform. So that I have, maybe we do service those moms postpartum, but we have an excellent female coach who's been there and she specialized in it. And she has all these certifications and she's worked with thousands of people herself. She has all this experience and she's working in brick and mortar and she wants to transfer over into the online space. And I say, hey, I got from 0 to 10K. This is how I did it. This is the formula. This is the things that we set up. This is the team I had to build to make that happen. You come on. I haven't quite figured out exactly how this is going to look, but it's like you come on somehow and then we set you through the process, and then Pr1me Training gets to share in the profit of it. Right. And then I just go and I start recruiting more coaches, and we start making it so that when you are looking for coaching online and you're a specific person looking for a specific outcome, then we probably have something for you specifically. Right. So, that's, if we can hit that in like 5 years, great.
Yeah.
But right now it's, how can I, with the private training clients that I have who have a variety of different goals and need a variety of different programs, both on the nutrition and on the training side, how can I service them to where they're having an amazing experience?
Right.
And they will give me a really nice review and testimonial. And how can I build that thing that's like directly for my target demographic, so that when they come, I can say, hey, I have this thing built just for you. Here it is. So, and then there's the website, and there's the social media, and there's like all the other things that I feel like I have to do. I do know that I don't have to do social media. That's kind of a long play.
Sure.
And there is kind of a formula to this. And if I stick to the formula and I do the simple things every day, just like I have my clients do, then I'm going to see success. It just will take some time.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest hurdle right now is, how can I transition into servicing too many people and then build the thing that I need to build.
Right.
And making that transition, it's like luckily I have Persistence Culture, has 4 gyms locally, hundreds of members in Ventura County. And I've sold most of their memberships. I've worked with almost all of them.
Right.
And they all know, like, and trust me already.
Yeah.
So luckily I had this company that my company could kind of piggyback off of. And I'm only adding value, which is like a good trade-off. Persistence Culture gets value. Their members get value because they're going to have even more results, even better experience with a Persistence Culture coach. And I'm still a Persistence Culture coach. And then my company gets to have, in the time that it needs it the most, it has easy access to people who already are bought in.
Right.
But how can I make that transition from the local people who know me to the scary world out there on the interweb who doesn't know me?
Yeah. And that's fair to say. I feel like I could pivot into different topics, but I guess I'll go with this one. What if you were talking to me as in I don't know you at all? What's separate? And you might have already kind of alluded to that with your experience and you being fit right now. But what separates your program from all the other programs that are out there right now that are trying to sell me as well? Maybe I'm a father. I have developed my dad bod, and there's like 4 programs out there. Why should I go with you?
Right. So out there in the market, you have a couple of different options. One is going to be the in-person experience with, it's like you will go work with a trainer, or you go pay a monthly thing at a big box gym like 24 Hour Fitness. So, those things are great. However, if you're going to go work with an in-person trainer, like my cost to work with me one-on-one, you would be paying more just in 10 sessions a month with me in person over 3 months, which is the 12 weeks that my program is, you're paying a significant amount for just my time to show up and train you in person. And that versus what you could do with the online is you get, for less money, you get all of the workouts at unlimited. Okay. Some people are doing 7 days a week. Not everybody, but some of my clients are. And then you also get my coaching for nutrition. And then you also get a online group that you can get plugged into. And then you also get all of the learning modules that I put together. So I make videos on, hey, this is the nutrition cycle, but when you're not working with me, this is the cycle you're going to go with. It's actually rather simple. You can keep that forever. I'm going to teach you how to go through it. And then I'm going to show you how to go through it. And the same thing for training. There's 3 phases in the Catalyst program. There's nutrition the first month, there's training the second month, and there's wellness the third month, where we get everyone a whoop and blood testing. And so I go through all of those different things, which, again, just for the in-person training, that would be more expensive than my 12-week program. Yeah. So the cost there is like what you're getting, the value of what you're getting is much higher with the online. And then let's compare my program with other online programs.
Yeah.
It's like usually what you'll see is a significantly lower cost with other online programs.
Yeah.
Now, the reason for that is because they're selling you a product.
Right.
They're selling you a packaged information or information packaged in a certain way. So you can get a course. Maybe you get a little bit of contact with a coach. Usually those coaches are going to be servicing a lot of people. But with me, you're going to get a little bit more private attention.
Gotcha.
Right? There is going to be a cap on how many people I can service with this, because there is time, my time, that I do have to devote to.
Have you set that cap yet?
No, I think it's going to be 20.
Okay. I was going to say 30-ish, 20-ish.
Yeah, I don't think I would want more than 20 people at a time.
Right.
Just because then I'm going to have to dilute the quality.
Right.
I won't be able, it's like right now I have office hours every single day where people can message me. And then we have 2 calls a week. So one is set on Monday, one is set on Friday. Those times don't change.
Right.
But if I had more than 20 people, then me looking at everyone's nutrition diaries, me looking at all of their Whoop scores, and looking at their weights and their progress photos, I'm not going to be able to know off the top of my head where you're at in the week.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm bridging the gap. I've seen it work best in person, where I can work one-on-one with a person. I know that costs a lot. So I know I can deliver more value for less money online, and I can service more people. So it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah.
And then I know I can provide a lot more than what you would get if you just buy basically a fitness product, right? You go on to ChatGPT if you want information.
Yeah.
Like if you want someone to tell you what to do, and the basic information, go on to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT what to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like the people that need this maybe I've tried that, but not as self-sufficient as that. They probably look to social media, and then they just see this person that's ripped, and then they're just like, oh yeah, this program's going to get me to look like this guy. Cool. But I don't think it's as simple as that, and it sounds like, I love how you broke it down. It was like brick and mortar. If you get this, you only get, the gym and one-on-one coaching. But then if you get the program, you're only getting the module, which is 2 parts of of your whole suite of value that you're providing customers. So it sounds like, it is a comprehensive program that you can provide others, which is really nice.
I think that's it. The comprehensive piece. I also, it's like my background gives me a bit more of a leg up on other trainers as well. I've met a lot of other coaches, and there's a lot of people out there who are really good people. But they didn't decide to make this their career.
Sure.
They probably had great genetics, and then they probably did a lot of athletics, and they learned from coaches, and then they went on Instagram and they started posting pictures of themselves because they're really hot. They look good naked. And then they post pictures of themselves mostly naked.
Yeah.
And then people are like, wow, look at that.
Right.
They must know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because
it's a trap.
It's not, it's a trap. That's not always the case. They're not always professionals, right?
Sure.
Just because somebody looks the part with fitness specifically does not mean that they're going to be able to get, if you are 30 pounds overweight and you have been out of shape for the past 15 years, the guy who is on Instagram selling his program, who, it's like he played football and then he got into bodybuilding and he's done a couple of shows. It's like he'll probably, like, what he'll have you do might work for his 12 weeks. 12-week program is a pretty standard set time for trainers. But what happens after that?
Yep.
And so what I do is I take a much more evidence-based approach on evaluating how, if we look at the scientific literature, what are the people doing who sustain their weight loss? What are the people doing who actually create habits around a new lifestyle? And really, it's like they're doing some simple things. Most of the people who have lost a significant amount of weight and kept it off for multiple years, one, go into it with some sort of a plan. They enjoy it, right? And, it's like 3, they have some sort of support system for them, right? So the enjoy it piece is that's a one that I think a lot of people skip, especially a lot of fitness influencers. And a lot of these, it's like, especially fat loss programs. Like this is not a fat loss program for a reason. I can make people lose fat very quickly.
Yeah.
But when you make people lose fat and if you go onto a program and it's a 12-week program and you see these incredible transformations out of a 12-week program, I can almost guarantee you that 80% of those people get back to their starting weight, if not more.
It's tough.
And that's just what the data tells us on if you lose a whole bunch of weight really quickly, typically what you have done is you have gone from one lifestyle and you've completely stopped it and started a different one.
Right.
And if you're doing that for 12 weeks, then that might be sustainable, especially if you know that there's an end date, right? Bodybuilders do this. They will go through their bulking and cutting cycles, but they know it's an end date, and a lot of bodybuilders have a very hard time refeeding and doing a reverse diet, and then they crash and they bounce and they ruin their metabolism.
Interesting.
It's like
you shock your system, right? It's
like if you
time frame.
if you start doing those shocks to the system, right, and you don't do a habit stack. Like one of the things that my book or my program is built off of is the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. Looking at how to build habits around things instead of how to make a change for your body. what are the habits that are going to make the change? Not what are the, it's like, okay, I can say cut out all refined sugars. I can take a group of 100 people and I can tell them for the next 12 weeks, you're not going to change anything except you can't eat sugars. You can't have any added sugars in anything. All you're going to do is you're going to have whole foods, right? We're going to be as little processing as possible for your foods. And you will not believe how good they will look at the end of 12 weeks. But what do they look like in 48 weeks, right? Yeah. What are they, it's like, that's more important to me.
Right.
And I know that those are the results that really are going to get people. And honestly, those aren't even the results that people will be talking about when they leave reviews. But I know I'm in this to change people's lives.
Yeah.
I'm not in this to make money and have good before and after pictures. Right. And that's the delineation between what my program is and a scientific backed approach and someone who is really good at bodybuilding and they're really sexy and trying to sell their 12-week program.
Yeah.
They want the sexiness, right? They want people to.
It sells.
And it's like, unfortunately it does, but there's a lot of fitness. There's a lot of models in fitness that sells. Big box gyms are a really good example. So my wife, has decided to challenge herself by doing a bodybuilding competition. We don't really have any experience in bodybuilding before this. We've only done functional fitness really for the past decade. And we're going to a big box gym, and I've been the general manager of a gym before, so I have been really friendly with the general manager of this one. I'm asking him, it's like how many clients they have, it's like what their membership looks like, what their churn rate looks like. It's like I like to nerd out on that stuff. It was really important to me for a while, so I wanted to get a different perspective. One of the things that you have to understand if you drive by a 24-hour fitness or whatever, Gold's Gym, something like that, is that typically they'll be holding like 15 to 25,000 memberships.
Wow. I wonder how many of those are active or frequent, I guess is the main.
Yeah. 500 maybe.
Yeah. That is a small percentage.
And this is, but it's a terribly small percentage. However, they want it to be smaller.
Right. Exactly.
If you look at Planet Fitness, right? That's the one with the purple and the pizza, right? Okay. So Planet Fitness, they looked at, okay, who are the people who are actually coming in? Who are the people who are using our equipment and they make our space intimidating and they make loud noises and they make it for someone who has never worked out before, who comes in and sees this like giant roided out dude smashing the weights or this like supermodel chick doing her, like hip thrusts. And they're like, this isn't my place. They're like, how do we get rid of the supermodel and the massive dude? Okay, well, no smashing weights, no noise. Don't make noise.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's most of the people who use the gym.
Right.
And then, it's like you just start layering on these things. It's like, how can we push those people out to make it more empty?
Right.
Then we don't have to spend money on equipment upkeep.
Yeah.
And then we can incentivize more of the people who are maybe a little bit more intimidated by saying, it's $10 a month. Plus every Friday there's pizza. If you just come get a slice.
They get pizza out there?
Yeah. Yeah. If you just come get a slice of pizza, there's your membership.
Wow.
And then they're like, okay, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
I'll sign up for 2 years.
And I have a gym membership.
And then it's like they sign up and I have a gym membership and I don't go, but it's like, I know I should go more.
Yeah.
The people who sold you that gym membership they don't want you in the gym.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that people have to realize about the fitness industry is there are people out there who are selling fitness, but really what they're trying to accomplish is just making that sale, not providing value.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's like that probably applies to most industries. I just don't have experience in any other industry, but it's like it's prevalent in the fitness industry. And I think that's where, I want to change the approach for how I look at the online space. I could make a really sexy fitness product and have unlimited, like there is no cap. I just sell, it's like I sell thousands of these. You buy my course and then you go through my course. And the ones, it's like the 0.1% who actually does it, they'll probably see results, but most of the other people won't. But I don't care about their results. I just care about the money. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to focus on, okay, what is going to get my clients the most lasting results?
Yeah.
That's if I teach them how to live this lifestyle.
Right.
And so really that's kind of I don't want to say that I'm a life coach, because that, it's like that has a certain implication.
I'd say in a way that's true.
But it is like I am a fitness lifestyle coach, and the Catalyst program is a fitness lifestyle program. So that's how I would differentiate myself.
Yeah.
And you can see I'm honestly not very efficient at making that argument yet.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say maybe not efficient, but it's a compelling argument and it makes sense. It reminded me of kind of like how healthcare, you go to like the bigger, I'm part of Kaiser, which is, they're great in some sense, but they're all about numbers. It's you come in, okay, what do you need? Okay, cool. And then it's done. Get out of here, where you go to more of like I wouldn't say like a mom and pop, but just more of like a smaller
private practice.
Private practice. They actually want to cure you. They want to like help you, and they'll give you more attention and help you, guide you to a healthier, take this. It's not just like, here's your prescription, go figure it out and call me back if you have any problems. It's like, I can't remember how many times I've come in with like a sprained ankle and it's like, all right, here's your brace. Okay, later.
Here's your brace and your Percocet.
Yeah, exactly. It's like painkillers. And I'm just like, okay, this isn't going to solve the problem. And I go to PT over there and it's like, roll my eyes.
They give you a printout of your 5 exercises.
Yeah.
Okay, do this 3 times
exactly.
a week.
And it's like the pulse, they put like a pulse thing on your ankle and you're like, oh, you feel better? It's like, yeah, thanks. I'll go now, But then like if you go to like
sprained.
Yeah, exactly. If you go to like Maya, we just had Maya here. And she's like, let me go on a hike with you. Let me figure out what's going on. And she's like doing like the cleans with you, like power cleans and stuff like that. And she wants to dive into your problem and like really give you a good course of action to cure it. Which it sounds very in line with what you're trying to do. Just the fact that you're willing to cut off the number of clients that you're willing to accept just shows that, hey, it's not about the numbers. It's about, your purpose, which is helping people get healthier and focusing on that, changing people's lives instead of, yeah, cool, I got paid this month, like, and my job's sweet. And it's like, does that really help anybody? Not really, So, it sounds like you're well in line with what you're trying to do. It's that those intermediate steps that are just, but it sounds like you're in it for the long term. You're in it to make it something special over time instead of, I got to do it. Like I got to be, 10K a month for within 3 months, you're willing to put that time, even though I know that you would like to be there. I know that.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. But
well, I really do think that There's, if I wanted to get that kind of revenue that quickly, one, I don't think I would be doing it in the fitness space, because then I would have to compromise my ethics a little bit. There's other industries where you can do more volume, you can provide a good product, and you can provide good value, and you can do it a little bit more. But my expertise is in fitness, and I think dedicating the past 10 years to becoming an expert in that, I have the ability to go really deep instead of very wide.
Right.
And it feels like there's some sort of moral obligation for me, because I feel like I can help people, so I should. And I have, it's like starting this business, I have had people say, like, why online fitness though?
Yeah.
It's like, it seems so hard. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But
not easy.
It's not easy. It's a hard, fitness is a hard thing to sell. Like when I transitioned from being general manager to one Persistence Culture location to the chief revenue officer of all of the Persistence Culture locations. I was in charge of all the marketing and the sales and the revenue, it's like our top line. And I went door to door.
Yeah.
Right? Knocking on people's doors, asking if they wanted to start a gym membership. I went to people's homes uninvited and then said, do you want to pay me money so that I can tell you how to work hard?
Hard thing to sell.
And then you might see results in minimum 90 days.
Well, when you put it that way.
I know. They're like, I did get a couple though, but I did, it's like one of the things that I saw was like, I think in the fitness industry, especially when you're a trainer, you have these goggles on because you see the people who, it's like there's stages of making a decision for anything. If anyone wants to make a change in literally any part of their life, then they're going to go through certain steps, right? So first big one is like the recognition that there needs to be change in the first place.
Right.
After they recognize, then they usually start to investigate. After the investigation, usually there prompts like some sort of preliminary action. After the preliminary action, then they actually go do the thing, right? Those are the stages of fitness anyways, but it applies to most everything. You see people who are in the investigation stage and nobody before that, right? Unless you're trying to convince your fat uncle that he needs to exercise before he has a coronary.
Which is a recognition phase, right?
Right? Which is a pre-recognition.
Pre-recognition, gotcha.
Right? Then they're like,
yeah, I don't need to do that.
I probably should, but I'm all right.
Yeah, exactly.
And, it's like, so I went to people's homes and had these conversations with them pre-recognition. It's like I knocked on, I don't know, a couple thousand doors. And I had a lot of conversations with people who knew that they should, but the list of excuses that they had on why they can't, or that's not them, it's just not who they are.
Interesting.
Is really, it was really eye-opening. And then I thought, oh, I see. The first step is you have to identify as someone who is willing to make a change.
Right.
Unless you identify as someone who is willing to make a change and is going to actively make a change, then you just won't. Like, you'll be able to convince yourself that you can't, that it's just not for you. Because there was, no one can out argue me on why they can't work out. You give me as many excuses as you want. I'm going to reduce it and reduce it and reduce it to say, it's like, oh, I got fibromyalgia. Oh, well, hey, did you, it's like, were you on the couch before you walked to the door? Mm-hmm. If I just said, you just stand up from your couch and you sit back down and you do that until you feel a little bit tired, and then you take a 1 minute break, mm-hmm. and then you do it again that many times, let's call it 15. And then you do that 3 times. So 3 sets of 15 reps of standing up from your couch. Mm-hmm. That's a workout.
Yeah.
And you think you could do that? Well, I suppose I could, but it's like, it's just not for me.
Right.
And it's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like you're like out of breath. You walk 20 feet over to the door to open it. It's like that. Is that the life that you want? Like, that's the life that you've relegated yourself to?
Yeah.
And, it's like, so all that to say is just, I've seen people before they make that decision. And I also have seen when they make the decision to make a change, just how drastically their life changes.
Right.
And if they have a coach who's willing to invest in them when they make that decision, then every single aspect of their life is improved, right? Their relationship with their family is improved. Their relationship at work, like their productivity is improved, right? You start moving more, then you start wanting to recover better, and then you get better sleep. Right. And then you're like, oh man, I feel like crap when I eat donuts for breakfast. And then like you start eating eggs. Yeah. You're like, oh, this makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a tumble effect, right? Yeah.
And so I wanted to provide that service online, right? I wanted to figure out one, it's like I didn't want to be limited by the brick and mortar space anymore. And I wanted to open myself up. It's like a decade in brick and mortar. Yeah, I could have done more private training. I could have like opened up my own studio, whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, if I want flexibility and want to help the most people possible and want to take what I've learned over the past decade and apply it to as many people as I can and help as many people as I can, how can I do that online?
Right.
And then that's how I built the Catalyst program. That's where I started from.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess what came to mind for me, and you might have already answered it in what you just discussed, was how do you pick at that? I love that breakdown of like the pre-identification, and then I forget what follows that. Identification.
Investigation.
Investigation, and then I guess how do you get those cold... I mean, I guess that's the crux of your business and marketing. But if you were to pitch like a cold person, not even knowing that they need to make a change, they're in the dad bod mode. They have kids. They're lethargic and they're slowing down. How do you get them to come to you and say, "Hey, I can help you"?
That's a question that I've been asking myself for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that. Right. I don't have a way to convince people.
What has worked for you then? Like you said that you sold a couple cold, people that were even pre-investigation when you door knocked. What got them in?
Well, they weren't. That's why. They already were doing things for exercise.
I see.
They just didn't know that there was another option that was 3 blocks away from their house.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the people that I sold, a couple, one guy who, great guy, his name is Jeff. He was already running every day for 380 days straight.
Wow.
I think amazing. He did 3 miles every day for 380 days.
It's hard on your knees.
Yeah. And so, it's like he was obviously past the
that
pre-investigation
threshold.
point, right? So, it's like the people who have not identified the problem. And this goes back to the nutrition cycle. It starts with the trigger, right? The trigger for you, it can look any way, any shape, any size, but you need to feel that trigger before you start. And nobody can give it to you. I'll give the example of my dad. My dad was he played football they won the state championship, I think, all 4 years that he was playing high school football. And super fit guy, then went into police. He was a police officer for a minute, and then he went into construction after that and started his own construction company. He was pretty active his whole life, fairly fit. He unfortunately got into a landslide while fishing, had to have reconstructive surgery on his knees, his back, and his shoulders.
Wow.
I think in total he had, from his first surgery after that to the last for that specific event, I think it was 18 surgeries in total.
Oh my God.
He was prescribed high dose OxyContin. This is when OxyContin just became a thing. He was prescribed high dose OxyContin for 6 months straight and became addicted, obviously, to opiates. And then there was a long process which is still ongoing, of him trying to regain what he had before, right? There was a lot of triggers along the way of, hey, you should make a change.
Yeah.
There was points where it was like he could no longer do, it's like his health declined so much to where he could no longer do activities like he could anymore. That's one trigger. There was points where he declined so much to where he couldn't really do the carpentry job that he had been doing forever. He could only really run jobs from a chair.
Right.
That was another trigger. Then there was the point where it's like he couldn't really walk very well anymore. There's another trigger. Then he got some toes amputated.
Wow.
Then he got half of a foot amputated. Wow. Then he got wheelchair bound. I think it was after he had half of his left foot removed because of necrosis, because his circulation was so bad, and he's pre-diabetic. Smoked all of his life, really, started smoking in his 20s, I think. And then he started to do some walking in a pool, and then he started to do some exercising. And then, it's like, this is a decade after I got my degree in exercise science. And I said, Dad, I will train you for free. People pay me. At the time I was selling $5,000 packages to private train athletes.
Wow.
And, it's like I would get groups of high performing kids, and I would be like, okay, we're going to this is basically college prep. We're going to get you a scholarship kind of stuff.
Wow.
Really high level, working with the best athletes in the state, at the high school level, in lacrosse and some in soccer. And then I was like, I'll train you for free.
Yeah.
What do you want? Let's go.
Yeah.
But he didn't make the decision to go from, I recognize that I have a problem, to investigating, how do I fix this? He wanted to jump to the end. He always wanted to jump to the results instead of, hey, it's like, let's layer on it. I told him, I remember I was just graduating with my bachelor's in exercise science. And I said, I'll write you a fitness program, but like really you just need to walk. Let's do, if you can walk 10-minute bouts 3 times a week, then let's get some weights.
Yeah.
But, it's like we'll get some light weights and we'll start doing stuff. But first, you just need to be consistent with some movement.
Yeah.
So, and our backyard was up to a park.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful park.
Yeah.
It had like a 1.5 mile loop around a pond. It was amazing. You couldn't make it easier.
Yeah.
And I don't think he went on a single walk.
Wow.
And so but those are the people that opened up the door and told me why it wasn't for them. You have to nobody else can give this to you. You have to make the decision to start making that change.
Right.
And once you do, there's so many options open to you. It's like I try to provide one that's like a one-stop shop to where if you decide that you want to make a change, then you're going to know how to eat. You're going to know how to move. You're going to know how to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do 12 weeks with me. If you want to do more, we'll figure it out. But if you didn't and you just wanted to go to the gym and stay consistent with what I gave you, it's not going to be super complicated.
Right.
You could do that for the next 5 years and you're going to be a totally different human being.
Yeah. So they're already warmed up to the idea of change before they approach you.
They have to be.
Yeah.
And I can't give that to them.
Right.
Unfortunately. I wish I could. Honestly, and like I said, this is something that I've been thinking about for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I really, really wish I could. Because I wanted to do it for my dad. I wanted to give him that.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I have to do? And, it's like when I first got married, I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to have kids one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want to be there?
Yeah.
Because not only are you going down the track that you probably will not be in a place where you can play with your grandchildren.
Right.
You're going down a track where you will not know your grandchildren.
Wow.
It's like that's a space where I was like, how do I give that to him? And it's also you start to ask those questions. If anyone knows an addict, then how do you help them understand that they have a problem and that they need to start searching for solutions? You can't.
Yeah. I mean, there's tools like interventions and stuff like that, but they need to make that decision on their own.
I've been through a bunch of those too.
Yeah,
it's like I've been in the room for those.
Wow.
And I don't know the numbers. This isn't my field. I don't know the numbers on it, but my guess is that it's like lower than 5% of like how many of those stick.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that it's an efficient or a worthwhile way to go, but it is a tool. But like you said, I mean, when you want to make the decision, you do it on your own. I don't think anybody can persuade you or give you those triggers to understand that you need to identify or recognize that you need to make a change. That's on your own, which is I mean, that's tough. That's a tough subject for sure.
Yeah. But if you do, and you're a high-performing male from the ages of 35 to 60, and you want to make a change, then DM me, Sean McFatridge on Instagram.
That's right. Yeah.
Or LinkedIn.
Yeah. Facebook, Instagram, all the social media plugs. Yeah. Do you want to give your info?
Well, honestly, that's it. My company is Prime Training, Pr1me training. I'm working on a website, so if you look that up right now, it is April 25th, 2024. If you look it up right now, you won't find anything. If you look it up in a month, then Pr1me training.com is where you can get signed up for the Catalyst program.
Awesome. Thank you. appreciate the episode, Sean. Good talking to you. And it concludes another good podcast. Give us a like and follow on Persistence Culture Podcast on social media, and keep moving.